a time, there was a town, it's always an old town in Europe, whatever. And in this town, the people of the town were very interested in bringing Mashiach, aren't we all? So they come to their Rebbe and they said, Rebbe, listen, we really want to bring Mashiach, how can we do it? So the Rebbe says, not a problem. Yontif is coming up, and on Yontif we say Hallel. So all you have to do is on this Yontif, get the whole community together, and really spread the word to the entire Jewish community. And when you get to the part of Ana Hashem and Hallel, say it with a lot of fervor and a lot of kavanah and concentration, and if you do that, Mashiach will come. So the town's like, oh, that's easy, not a problem. So they put up flyers, and they make phone calls, and they post it on Facebook, the whole thing. Everyone come to this shul, and when we say Hallel, we're going to say Ana Hashem, and it's going to be this intense, with kavanah, intention for Mashiach to come, and then we're going to bring Mashiach, and we're all very excited. Okay, very nice. So everyone comes, and they're davening, and they got through Shacharit, and they get to Hallel, and they get to the end of Hallel, and we know at the end of Hallel, we say Ana Hashem Hoshiana, and then we say Ana Hashem Hoshiana, and then we say Ana Hashem Hatzlichana, and then again Ana Hashem Hatzlichana. And you should have seen what was going on in the shul. The shul was packed. The women's section, there was no seats. The men's section, standing room only. And everyone is like, whoa, Mashiach is going to walk through the store by the end of this davening. They were so excited. And they start davening and get to the end of Hallel. And the Chazan says, Ana Hashem Hoshiana. And the whole shul starts screaming, Ana Hashem Hoshiana. Like the walls are shaking. And they say, Ana Hashem Hoshiana. The Chazan says again. And everyone repeats, Ana Hashem Hoshiana. And the shul's going to come down. They're so excited. And they say, Ana Hashem Hatzlichana, and everyone's screaming, Ana Hashem Hatzlichana, and again a second time. And they look at the door, they're waiting for the chauffeur, the donkey, the eagle, whatever. And Mashiach doesn't come. Really sad story. So after Yontif, everyone's really, really let down. Like, hello, Rebbe, you listen to the Rebbe. We said, Ana Hashem, like, what's the deal? Where's Mashiach? So they go to the Rebbe, and they say, Rebbe, what happened? We did everything we were supposed to do. And the Rebbe said to them, they said, you gave kavanah to the very wrong Ana Hashem. You skipped the first Ana Hashem in Hallel. What do we say Ana Hashem also? We say Ana Hashem ki ani avtecha. Great song, can't sing it for you, sorry. Ana Hashem ki ani avtecha ben amatecha. Please Hashem, I am your servant, the son of your maidservant. Pitachta l'moserai. You've opened up my chains. If you had, what does it mean? Why does that require kavanah? He said, if you had said that pasuk, it's pasuk in Tehillim, that you are dedicating yourself as a servant to God. And if you had said that with kavanah, that you want to serve God, then you would have brought Mashiach. I mean that you should have intention that Hashem should save you. Hashem can't just save you unless you put in the effort. If you want to put in the effort and say, I'm a servant of God, then God will bring Mashiach. So they missed the point. Sounds really simple, right? That's all Mashiach. Just be a servant of God. No biggie. It's not really so simple, actually. And if you look, if you look at the pasuk itself, the pasuk doesn't seem to make so much sense. It says, Ana Hashem ki ani avtecha, God, I'm your servant. Pitachta l'moserai, you have opened up my chains. It's a problem. By nature, a servant is someone who's chained up, right? He's locked up into a job. He's not free. He hasn't been unchained. What does it mean that if we're slaves to God, that we are unchained? So I can't remember in whose name, so I apologize, but I learned this from a Rebbe of mine, Rabbi Maybrook, Zev Maybrook. He's a rabbi in Queens. So for those of you who don't know, I'm from New York. As Serena can remind you if you forget. I am American, if you can't hear. Anyway, so I'm not the only foreigner in the room, so we can bond on that issue. Anyway, so my Rabbi Maybrook, told me the following idea. He said that, what's the definition of a slave? A slave is somebody who can't do what he wants to do. But when you serve God, you're doing exactly what your neshama wants to do. We're trapped in our bodies, and our bodies don't necessarily want to do what our neshama wants to do. But when you do what your neshama wants to do, you're actually doing the opposite of what a slave is. You're doing what you want. So you are, in essence, by enslaving yourself to God, you're free. But again, not so simple. So I want to talk about this week's parsha. What does this have to do with this week's parsha? Great stories in this week's parsha. Yaakov, I'm going to have to backtrack for a second, but let's talk about this week's parsha and then I'll backtrack. Yaakov was in Haran last week. He gets married to 4 ladies. Been really busy, having lots of kids. I told this to my class, but you guys aren't in it. My daughter I was telling my daughter's 3 years old, and I was telling her, I said, well, it's a really interesting story, and Yaakov marries 4 women. I said, how would you feel if you had 4 imas? She thought for a second. She was like, 4 is a lot, but I could really use 2, because I have 2 kids, and she said it'd be great if 1 ima could be for me, and 1 ima could be for her, and then we wouldn't fight so much. So she was into the 2 wives things. You guys can reconsider the whole monogamy thing. Anyway, so Yaakov gets married to 4 women, and then this week's parsha, and he has all his kids, and this week's parsha, he comes back home. Now, the reason he was in Haran in the first place was because Esav, his very loving twin brother, wanted to kill him, which happens with siblings. I have 6, and at least 2 or 3 have that bounty on my head. So he comes home, and he knows he's coming back to Esav, who is looking to kill him, and he's actually coming with him with 400 men, literally to start a war, which is really comforting. When you're coming back home, the first thing, if you ever go away to summer camp and eventually go away to Israel, when you come back home, you really want to, come home with a special dinner and open arms, and Yaakov gets to come home to an army. So he's not feeling so secure, so he's davening and he's preparing in all sorts of ways, and he's sending gifts to his brother, etc. And the night before he goes to meet his brother Esav, he gets this visit from a malach. Fantastic. And the malach happens to be the malach of Esav. And let's see here. What happens? Vayivater Yaakov levado. Great song. Also can't sing that for you. Yaakov is alone. Vayavik ish imo, and this man comes to fight with him. Adalot shachar, and he fights with him until the morning. Vayarki lo yacholo, and this malach sees he's not winning. V'yigaba kaf yarecho, and whatever that means, he touches Yaakov's thigh. V'teka kaf yarech Yaakov v'hev ko imo, and he wounds him. V'yoma shalcheni ki olah shachar, now the malach wants to go back home, back up to Shemayim. V'yomer lo ashal alechacha ki im berach tani, and Yaakov says, I'm not sending you unless you bless me. Vayomer lo Hashemcha, okay, so they're back and forth. Yeah, the malach says, what's your name? He says, my name is Yaakov. And the malach replies, Vayomer lo Yaakov yemer od shemcha. And the malach says, no, we're not going to call you Yaakov anymore. Ki im Yisrael. New name, Yisrael, which is a name that we all bear, because all of us in this room are known as Bnei Yisrael, the children of Yaakov, but we know him as Yisrael. So we're the Bnei Yisrael. Why does he change his name? What's the reason? So the pasuk says, the malach says, Ki sarita im Elokim, you fought with God, v'im anashim, and with people, v'tuchal, and you won. So I'm going to ask you the following question. If you have a basketball game, or a football game, or a hockey game, it's Canada, a hockey game, okay, whatever, and you win, okay, the thing that you're most excited about is not what, well, I guess I'm a girl, but not what happened during the game, but the fact that you won. The winning is really, really exciting. That's the exciting part. Yaakov fights with the malach, and you would think the exciting part about this entire experience is that he beats the malach. That pasuk says, Vatuchal, and he won, except that Yaakov is not called Tuchal. You would think his name would come something from the winning piece, which would be awful, by the way, because then we'd be known as the Bnei Tuchal, which is ugly. Instead, we're called the Bnei Israel, which comes from the word sarita, that we fought. And it seems a little bit odd that we're memorializing the fighting part, right? It doesn't seem to fit with and jive with what we know about Bnei Israel. We're kind of those peaceful people, and we bring peace into the world and all this wonderful stuff. But our name comes from the word sarita, to fight. We are the Bnei Israel, the children of the fighter. It's a little bit odd. It's not to understand why it is that we're called the child of the fighter. It's inspiring a dance move over here. So, it's very exciting. Well, fill me in on the joke later. Anyway, I want to backtrack a little bit. Backtrack on what's Yaakov's goal, kind of role in this world, and what our role as his children is. What happened in last week's parsha, Parsha Vayetze, backtrack, 2 weeks ago, Parsha Toldo. So Yitzchak has 2 sons. Their names are Yaakov and Esav. And he calls, his favorite child is Esav. We can see favoritism doesn't exactly work. It's a great example, not the first one or the last one, Tanakh. And Yitzchak calls his son Esav, and he wants to bless him. It's a little bit strange. If you think about everything that we know about Esav, he's not the good kid in the family. Why is Yitzchak so keen on bringing this kid in and giving him all these blessings? If you look at Yaakov's blessings, it was supposed to be this great blessing that Esav was supposed to get. So Rabbi Rolaski, who happens to be a teacher in many, many seminaries in Yeshiva and Yisrael, suggested the following idea, based off the Maharal, I believe, which I also saw in Rabbi Milevsky's book. I think Rabbi Milevsky was a Torontonian, actually, originally. And he was ultimately the chief rabbi in Uruguay. which is a different story. Anyway, the concept is that Yitzchak thought, he had this idea, that he would send out, he has his 2 sons, and he's going to send out his 2 sons into the world, and they are going to fix the world. How are they going to do it? He's going to have this one son who's going to do everything physical. He's going to be the money maker, he's going to be the business guy, he's the CEO and the CFO of this organization, and Yaakov was going to run the Torah piece, and they were going to have this organization together. Yaakov was going to be the Kiruv head, who's going to run around and run seminars and M&Ls and all these things. And Esav was going to be the money, because nothing happens without money. And Esav was going to sponsor the entire situation. They were going to be this great pair going out into the world and doing great things together. Which is a good idea. Only problem was that Esav's money making and his physicality was not really inclined towards the Yaakov business of Kiruv and spreading God's name in the world. Which is why, when Rivka realized that, she said, uh-oh, Yaakov, this is going to have to be a one-man show. And Yaakov steals both brachot, which is interesting, by the way. The Yaakov spent, this first act that we really see Yaakov do is trick his father. And Yaakov spends the rest of his life being tricked by everyone else. So even though, at the end of the day, he gets the brachot, perhaps it wasn't necessarily the best approach. And he does get tricked a lot throughout the rest of his life. Anyways, Yaakov ends up taking over the enterprise. And his job in this world is to represent both the Yaakov and the Esav. And that is to create this organization in which he's going to bring the world to its perfection by spreading the name of God. And so Yaakov really represents representation of God to the world. And as such, as his children, we become the representatives of God to the world. So why are we calling ourselves, again, back to my question, the Bnei Israel, the fighters? And then I think that the answer takes us back to my original statement about Ana Hashem. And in order to explain it, I'm going to actually tell you a mashal from Rabbi Young Grace. Everyone likes, right? I feel like ever since in the last at least, 4 weeks, every Shabbos it's been pouring rain. I feel like I've been walking around with a hood on my head for a very long time. These things are expensive. You have to get them protected. So it's been really not so beautiful outside. Of course, rain. And everyone wants it to be beautiful and sunny skies. And, when you think about where you want to go for vacation, you want to go to the beach, where it's pretty and it's nice. Rabbi Younger says there is a place in the world where it's always sunny and it's always beautiful and everything is, the temperature is fantastic. It's called the desert. And guess what? In the desert, there is nothing at all that grows. Cactuses, maybe, cacti. It's not the best place. You think about, growth and living, the desert is not that place. He said, but there's a place in the world where it pours nonstop. The weather stinks. It's called a rainforest. If you ever look at a rainforest, the amount of growth and life and animals and plants and, researchers who don't really spend their time in the desert, they spend their time in the rainforest. It's the place that they want to be. What's the idea? That when life is simple and beautiful and sunny skies and nothing's getting in your way, you end up in a desert, in a place where nothing grows. When you have a life that is difficult and it's pouring and it's cloudy and not everything's perfect, that's where growth comes from. Why are we memorializing the fact that we are Yisrael, the children of the fighters? Because to be a Jew does not mean to win all the time. We think about Ana Hashem, Ki Ani Avdecha, that I want to be a servant of God. It's not simple. And the point is for it not to be simple. Because when life is simple, you just don't grow. Someone once told me, I had a teacher in high school who hated me, but this was a great mashal that she taught me. Which I guess you still can learn from teachers who don't like you or you don't like them. But she said that when everything is very easy and your feet are up and you're not putting in too much effort, you know that your bike is going downhill. And when you're working hard and you're sweating and you're having a difficult time, that's when you know your bike is going up. And the reason that we memorialize the fact that we are Bnei Israel is because as Jews, our job is to fight. And our job is to constantly fight and work towards service of God. And we don't look at mitzvot and say, well, I'm glad that was easy. It's not. When you look at mitzvot and you're looking at service of God, it's not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be something that we say, like, knock that out, next mitzvah. It's not. We are the Bnei Israel. We are fighters, and it's something that's difficult. But because it's difficult, that's what produces the growth. And that's what produces the fact that we end up winning at the end of the day. And Bnei Israel will be those winners, and they will be the tuchal. But it's not what we're proud of. We're proud of the fact that we're fighters, and we're proud of the fact that we continue to fight to live a Jewish life. Thank you so much. Have a